Okay, and I think it is good. Okay, so welcome to the Sandcast. We got Chris, Pebs, Gadiel, and myself. And we're going to be talking about, I don't know, but we'll be talking about it for the next about hour and a half. Okay, everybody. So you missed some crazy conversations while you were gone, Gady. We had we talked about the Unabomber and like why he was not really that crazy, but his methods were a little bit sketch, right? And then we ended up talking about like Ruby
Yep.
Ridge and Timothy McVeigh, if you're familiar with that. Are you familiar with like the Unabomber manifesto? Yeah,
Me?
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, anti-industrialist, anti-industrial society. Sorry. Well, I knew he was a mathematician,
yeah.
that he did a lot of acid, and that he might have lost a
I
few wheels and cogs in his head.
So he didn't
So
do acid. The predominant theory is that part of like Project MK Ultra 2, the FBI or the CIA did some unethical experiments on him and laced his food with acid to fuck up his brain. But yeah, that's
well, yeah.
he
So
didn't
one thing
willingly take
about
it.
acid, yeah. So that's the thing. Acid is good if you take it in a right set and setting.
Yeah.
If you take it without knowing it, you could start thinking that maybe you have issues, maybe, things are going not your way, just not good things. So if you take, depending on the context, you can have wildly crazy outcomes. Like if you dose someone and you don't tell them, you might as well just tell them that they're insane and they'll believe it, and they will act accordingly. So I do think something like that happened with them.
I personally don't know what to think because obviously the CIA never admitted it, and I think he did like elect to be a part of a couple experiments, but I don't think the CIA was necessarily involved. But very smart guy,
Yep.
very smart guy.
Oh, absolutely. He's very sharp, and he that's the scariest thing. He's very consistent about what he thinks and says and does.
Yeah, he's not like he
He's not a
yeah
crazy nut
he's
nut
not a nut job by any
terrorist.
means. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no.
I think his like conclusion was the wrong conclusion, but like overall,
Y- yeah. Well, I think maybe not his conclusion, but his methods.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. His
Yeah.
conclusion is that we need to start a revolution by bombing things. Like that's not the right conclusion you need to draw from your great insights, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna tie in a little bit of Buddhism here. So let's say there are several ways to achieve enlightenment, right? One of them is meditation, yoga, drugs, whatever you want to do. They all bring you up to some place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you come back, or you can decide to stay. So this happens because you can analyze Buddhism through an evolutionary psychology framework. So what you can do is say, okay, let's say we're animals, we develop brains, so we know we're conscious, we know we're here.
Thonk. Yeah.
So, what behaviors do animals have? They have primal needs, right? So, we feel pleasure when we eat. And this is because it's part of
Our brains,
a
like
reward.
yeah,
Yeah,
we've got the
yeah.
little serotonin hit. You eat.
No, it's
Yeah,
dopamine.
dopamine hit.
Dop-
Dopamine hit.
dopamine mediates reward mechanisms. So, when we eat, we experience pleasure. So, we want to do it again. The thing is, there are several ways to achieve pleasure. When you achieve maximum pleasure, let's say you achieve it once. Let's say you, as an animal, as a prototype animal, you eat once, and then you feel as much pleasure as you could possibly feel, and then you would never want to eat again. So you would just starve, but you wouldn't feel any negative effects. So this wouldn't be good for an animal, right? So we still have those kinds of mechanisms inside us because we are still
Yeah,
animals.
yeah.
So the interesting thing is that Buddhism has a lot to do with this because
Because
it's like
it's
a
like the repression, or not the repression, but like everything. It like in
yeah, awareness.
everything in excess is bad, right? and the goal is
Yes.
to like live a life. It's very similar to Western Stoicism, if you're familiar with like
Yeah.
Marcus
Yeah. Yeah.
Aurelius and all that. Yeah.
Yes. So I find Stoicism to be more functional than Buddhism. So people say that Buddhism, psychologists say that Buddhism is dysfunctional, that it makes you become a person that does not want to take action in society anymore. And this is partly true, because when you enlighten yourself, you don't want to, like, you want to stay enlightened. You know, you don't want to come back and be a human and partake in society. But there's something called the bodhisattva, which is like the enlightened being that came back, that decided, hey, things could be heavenly, things could be very good, but let's come back and change things here for everyone else to make things good here. And I think that's the right conclusion to come down to. Whether you're a Buddhist, a Christian, or like a MK Ultra psyop crazy guy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my point. So I think we should try to make things better for everyone
But
here. It's just logical.
I think the big thing though with Ted Kaczynski is like he was onto something, right? He was doing these bombings back in 1976 or so, right? I think it's like the mid late 70s. He's doing this. He's predicting that that human society is going to like find itself in a situation where like depression is going to become a big thing. Like I talked about this with Chris a little bit earlier. Like depression is going to be a big thing.
Sorry, depression, like mental
Yeah,
illness depression, or
yeah,
like,
mental illness. Like
yeah.
depression is going
So the horrible thing is that I agree with that. I think that's actually becoming a reality,
like
not
yeah,
just depression, anxiety.
humans were not designed to like or not they didn't evolve to live in a society where roads and cars
Okay,
and computers and the internet are a thing, right? And so all this
I
no, you're
really
right. You're right, but we can adapt. That's the problem. That's the thing. There are ways to adapt to
yeah,
it,
yeah, but
and there
like
are ways to make it healthy, right? There are ways to make it healthy and livable. But the problem is when you take people's rights to take drugs away, when you take people's liberties away, you start forcing them. And when people are forced, people don't like being forced. And they obviously get depressed, you know? Like, it's logical. It's like if you take away their basic pleasures and you substitute them for a product, for something that feels empty, they're not gonna like it subconsciously. They might say, "Oh no, I love this. This is fun," but their subconscious brain is like, "What the fuck is this? What am I doing here? I don't want this. I want out." And I think that's happening to a lot of people now. I'm not sure if you guys agree, but I've lived through this kind of thing, and I've come to these conclusions myself. And I think he's absolutely onto something. So, you know,
yeah,
like
and
it's crazy.
I think it's kind of like it's just
I think everybody's
yeah, it's a
crazy.
crazy world we live in. Like every day we just stray further and further from God's light. If you're familiar with
We might,
if you're familiar
yes,
with the meme,
but
but
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I fully agree with that meme because I think there's still a lot of light. It still shines through, but
eh,
I don't know.
we're in a clown world,
Yeah,
man. Like you've been paying
yeah,
attention a little bit to the current like election cycle in America. It's crazy. We live
yes.
in like
It's so my question is, how did it get to this point?
um
Because when I saw the debate, all I could think about was how this has become normalized.
uh
okay.
Like think,
I have a
think
theory on why this is norm. Like this has become the norm. So the
yeah,
thing is that like people who vote are generally like extremely opinionated or fringed like parts of the political system. And people who don't vote are usually content with either side or don't think it's going to make a difference which side gets picked. Like either way their lives are going to be manageable or the bad's
Shit.
going to be bad or just like there's not a reason to participate because it's like nothing's really going to happen and
sure.
then and so that kind of culminated I feel with Trump getting elected
uh
So
and now people like and maybe a month from now he gets reelected and I'm full of shit but I think that this voting like the next uh, election is going to see like a huge turnout, like a grossly significant higher percentage of people voting because now they're realizing, oh, if we don't now that we aren't participating, like things are getting
I just don't
significantly
like the other
worse.
options. Like, I'd be inclined to agree, but we kind of like have like two bickering old men like running for it, and I
Yeah.
agree to
Like, how do we not have better candidates,
two
right?
party system.
Because
How do
no
we
one
Because
not
wants
have
that
better
job.
no, it's
candidates?
Everyone
because of the
hates the
it's because
president.
of the two party system and the first past the post election stuff that we got. Like that's the reason why.
Yeah,
Like it's we're never going to get rid of it, and it has some advantages. The primary advantage being that like we're constantly doing the pendulum theory, right? So it always swings back and forth between the two parties,
yep,
and nothing
yep.
ever gets done. But because nothing ever gets done, that means like it's very unlikely that some crazy person's going to take power and do like full
Yeah,
neo-fascism shit in America. Like it's never going to happen
yeah.
because like
But this is the conclusion. But the way it happens is corruption. Corruption creeps up
no,
when you don't do things. Like, it just creeps up because you have so much
no,
room for it
actually,
when you have a
so
two-party
so
system.
so the corruption is not the is actually less likely when there's nothing like when it's when power is concentrated that corruption happens, and it's more so when you have like power concentrated into an ineffective leader, right? Because they'll promote corruption, and it has to do with like the keys to power theory that CGP Grey made a video on it like a while ago. Like there are certain keys to power, and if you're a leader, in order to like maintain your power as an autocrat,
Sure.
you need to like start giving power to
Yeah.
the people who will like ensure that you stay in power, and that's why dictatorships.
Gee, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, except like we're not outright bribing people or giving like Copacabana houses in Boca Raton.
I think Trump certainly
I
is.
don't necessarily agree with that, but I mean I'm not like well versed in the matter. I think like just overall like giving corporate kickbacks is not the same as like, hey, you're a general in the military over here, right? And you got all these soldiers under you. So I'm going to give you about $2 billion, nice house in Boca Raton, and what I want you to do is support me being president for life. Those are two completely different things. Like corporate kickbacks and tax breaks are like just
Well, I mean, he's gonna do what he can get away with, and you certainly can't get away with something like that in this day and age of information. But
mm,
I think as far as like reorganizing his own like the White House staff and
the White House staff is
like
completely appointed by the president. It's always been that way. Like Ulysses S. Grant had the same exact issue that Ulysses S. Grant had, or not issue, but the same exact thing that Ulysses S. Grant had is what Trump is like doing like now. So it's
it doesn't stop with the White House staff though. Like he's trying to do with the CDC, he's trying to do with the post office. He's
those are
trying.
all people appointed by the president. He is completely in his right to do that.
Yes, of course he's in his right to do it, but
Like
but
the
like kicking someone out of that position just because you don't like what they have to say
is
is
still something that the
incredibly irresponsible as a leader.
I mean, it may be irresponsible, but like that's his. If that's his prerogative, he's like legally allowed to do that. That's not corruption. Like, just
I I
I
disagree,
mean,
but
like
sure.
Obama or Bush or whatever, they make the appointees. Like the only difference, and I think this is like the key thing, is like he's putting patsies in place instead of people who are like 100% qualified for the job. I think that's like the big distinction. But like I think that's problematic. Like if you start like tossing away resumes because they disagree with you, that's like bad. But I don't think it necessarily indicates corruption, if you get what I'm saying. Corruption would be more like
Economic corruption. I think what you're trying to say, well, not what you're trying to say. That is still corruption. It's just moral corruption, right? Because you're not allowing free discourse. You're only allowing your own. That's still corruption, just not economic or of power. It's just moral.
Sure.
you're not a good sport when you
Potentially.
do that kind of thing. You're not allowing uh, dialectic, right? You're not allowing two sides to play against each other's. You're just allowing your own, which I think is corruption. I think that is corruption. Absolutely, it is.
I suppose. Um, oh, but you were mentioning like earlier though, Chris, like why you think things have gotten to shit. I think it's really a symptom of like us like taking the media and or taking like mass media that we can deliver on TVs and on the internet, like and just giving access like so when I went through political science, there was like a theory that my instructor like proposed, and I think is valid in that basically modern media has allowed for this shit to happen that we're seeing today. Because like at any time, it used to be like politics was conducted behind closed doors. Like the media couldn't go in and write news reports or like on site of people like they couldn't show everybody at the same time all this shit, right? But now like it
Yeah,
can be very open, right? The discussions can be very open. And so like it used to be that politicians would compromise with each other and they'd like be like scratch your back, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. You do this favor for me and I'll pick you up on the next bill. And so there was like a lot of political compromise. So like the discussions were like very civil because you knew like if you wanted to get something done that advanced your political agenda, you'd have to play nice by the other person's rules in order to like get stuff done, right? But then like fast forward a couple decades and like by the 1950s and 1960s we're seeing like the popularization of media as like a means to like the government like or the popularization of mass media television, and like the government is now no longer like behind closed doors. It's like under a microscope all the time. And so you have the ability of the United States president to basically backstab anybody on television saying like, yo, I would love to give everybody like name something like welfare, or I would love to give everybody like tax breaks, but Senator Chumbucket over here, Senator Chumbucket, he's not playing nice by my rules, and like I'm trying to do everything good for the American people, but this fucker over here, he's not cool. And so like you end up with that kind of mentality, and like it becomes a zero sum game all of a sudden. Like the president is liable to like not play by your rules, so why do you have to play by his? And so like then you start getting like an escalation of conflict in politics. Like no longer are two parties trying to work towards a similar goal, a similar end state.
But
They're
I don't really recollect like Bush or Obama doing that, for example. It's only with Trump that you've got started
I
this like
mean,
public defamation of character of other
well,
politicians.
that's more like a Trumpian thing, right? Where he's like insulting people and stuff. But like you can start seeing like the political discourse, like the way the media reports things, has continued to get more and more polarized over time. Like you
Sure.
like in once the internet got introduced, it like fast tracked it. Like television started it, but the internet fast tracked it. Like we went from like linear growth to exponential growth because the internet became a thing, right? And now anybody can go onto Facebook and start like
yeah,
reading these echo chambers. I think actually,
And they
sure.
I
do.
think it was actually more around like the either early Bush or mid Bush to like the beginning of the Obama administration. It was like during that period, somewhere in there, like you started getting like the political polarization that we see today. I honestly think that's when it started, because I remember my dad. He's pretty right, like right of the political spectrum. And you start seeing like all the discourse about like Obama not having a birth certificate, and Obama's the end of the world. He's like the Antichrist. Like that's right when this kind of shit started, right? And now you have like a guy who's willing to indulge in all of that kind of like political shit flinging in office now, and I think that's when it started, is like Bush and Obama. Seriously, I think if you go back and look at it.
But I think this polarization comes from the two-party system because there's very little room for nuance anyway,
Well,
right? Because
you'd say that,
you're
but
supposed to have two parties to represent your ideas. I don't think it works that way. I think you look at Europe where there's like proportional systems of representation where you have like four ruling parties or five ruling parties. And like there's more room for discourse and for diversity of opinions, I think. And I think that kind of thing is better
well,
because look,
that'll
the way they manage the budgets, the yeah, go ahead.
that's just something that will never happen in the United States. And like if you look in the past, like the parties were able to get along just fine prior to 19. I think like honestly, you start seeing like the president doing the backstabbing like in political office with Ronald Reagan. I mean
I think
they've probably been,
yeah,
like been doing it
I
longer, but
think
if you go back far enough, like the parties were just fine doing political log rolling. That's a specific like
yeah,
I think that applies to America more than anywhere else because we have the two-party system. If you go look up political log rolling, that might be like an interesting topic to read up on. But like we've been doing it
yeah,
for a long time, compromising. It's only just now that we're starting to see like this polarization, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I I think it's like a combination of a lot of things. Like the two-party system in today's day and age with all the internet and like the stuff that we see makes it very tough for you to have like sane rational discussion at the political level because when you have the two-party system plus the modern media you end up with like people who just can't agree with anything anymore and they know it is better to play to your polarized supporters than it is to play to like the moderates. Anyways, go on. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
yeah. Because it's so easy. It's so easy to follow your soapbox to like stay in your echo chamber. Because I mean, I've done it. I've been in an echo chamber, and I knew it was an echo chamber, and I
Yeah,
still
those
chose
those
to be in it.
Team Fortress 2 subreddits they get real wild. I know.
Yeah, like we all hate black people and crooked nose racists. Like that's all we do all day. Anyway, the point is that there should be more room for discourse, and it starts from oneself. You shouldn't expect it from others. You start by talking to people, even if they're like leftist, radical, feminist, whatever. You talk to them and you try to create empathy first of all. You try to say, "Hey, I'm not just some guy. I'm a person. I have feelings just like you. Please treat me with respect, and I'll treat you with respect."
it's
But when you can't even create that, you have no discourse. You have just circle jerking. You have just like there is no discussion. There is no exchange. It's just a placeholder of what it should be.
yeah.
It's just me talking and you talking against me. There is no exchange of ideas. There is no exchange of viewpoints. It's just blabbering. It's useless.
Yeah.
So, like, don't talk about politics on Reddit. That's what I do.
Yeah, just
That's what more people should do. Talk in person. Talk to someone calmly. Don't get angry. Don't get like flustered. Just keep
too many
talking.
people are
Just
crazy these
yeah,
days like uh,
yeah,
well, I wouldn't say too many. It's actually just like the same few like radical people. It's just like the
Yeah.
internet's just like allowed them to
look.
conglomerate
The,
together and
the
organize.
internet is just a stage for the people who scream the loudest, unfortunately, and that's what we get. People aren't going to scream loudly for compromise.
Yeah.
They're going to say, they're going to try and be respectful about it, and respect just that's not what the internet's about.
Yeah.
It's about
Nah,
screaming and
it's
being
about using the
ridiculous.
gamer word. Gotta go
No,
around.
it's about giant futa penises.
Okay. I don't know about that one, Chief, but I mean, like, that's what Chris uses it for. That's what Chris uses it for, is like giant food cocks. Or,
Uh,
yeah, it's
Fuck,
total.
that's what
fucking
Drew uses
boomers.
it for.
I was going to say, oh yeah, so we're about 30 minutes or 25 minutes into the podcast, and we haven't actually like properly like given our introductions and like our backgrounds, right? So, I mean, I introduced us all at the beginning, but like, okay, in the top left we got Chris here, fat Alaskan weeaboo, right?
No.
Oh, okay, just fat and Alaskan,
Yeah, those two are accurate.
but not weeaboo. Okay,
No,
even
no.
though he's like watched more anime than me and actually been to Japan and has like a
I probably haven't even watched more anime than you. You've probably watched more than me, to be honest.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. In all seriousness, I don't think I have. But like we can compare our lists later. But you've been to Japan and you have a degree in Japanese. Like you can't say you're not weeaboo. Sorry.
I guess.
Okay. Top right, we got Pebs. His claim to fame is that he plays a lot of Tarkov and Hunt Showdown and EVE Online. And he's been shot in the face. We'll talk about that in a couple seconds after I introduce everybody. Okay, Pebs?
Why?
Because
I love how that's what you start with, but why?
I,
Oh,
I don't know. He's deaf in one ear. So, anyways, so we'll get into that and get into your life story, I guess. And then we got Gady in the bottom left. He is an Italian. Was in South America for the past couple of years, right? Like Colombia.
Yep.
And
Yeah, in
you
Colombia.
recently moved back to Italy, and you are like the most knowledgeable person I know in regards to like drugs and how to properly utilize them. So we can tap into that knowledge later. Nothing illegal, please. Thank you.
Yep.
And then you have me,
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Sorry. Anyways, then you got me, Sand. Basically, I have a background in computer science stuff, so I'm like a very semi-knowledgeable when it comes to computers and how to program and do some stuff here and there. Background is military, and I do some stuff with the DoD. All hush hush. It's cool. But yeah, that's kind of like me. I don't do much. I'm a homeowner, I guess now. So that was a pretty cool process, becoming a homeowner.
That's pretty Chad-based red pill, my man.
Yeah, based in Red Pill, base department called, and they say that they're calling for a certain Sand and a Gady in here. Okay, Peps, so let's get into like you getting shot in the face. I know it's not much of a story, but Gady has like something he wants to talk about in regards to that. He mentioned, yeah. So what's it like being shot in the face, Peps?
Surprisingly less painful than dislocating both your knees at the same time.
There's a story behind that one, and I want to hear that too. Like, okay, so what was it? It was like a robber, right, or a burglar?
Yeah, the dude was just trying to break into my house.
Yeah, and you come out on your porch with like a gun, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, kind of. Should have shot through the door, but you know, mistakes were made.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I didn't shoot my roommate being like drunk and retarded or something.
Yeah.
First off, secondly, I didn't want to shoot somebody if I didn't have to shoot somebody. So, shooting people's not fun.
Damn, that's wild. Like, just oof. Couldn't imagine that. I mean, it might happen where I live, but I couldn't imagine that. Like, someone.
I live in a town with less than 500 people.
Yeah,
so
like how that happened. Like
happen
that.
every day.
Statistically speaking, that should not have happened to you.
I know, right?
Damn.
So you're now deaf in like one ear because of that, right? So every time I play Tarkov, you're just like, hey, I need you to put on hearing so that way like you can hear because I can't hear shit, right?
Yep, and I'll just carry the face shield, and you can tell me what door you want me to go through first.
Yeah. Oof, man.
So
go ahead.
I can't imagine going deaf in one ear. So
Dude,
I make
it's so
I make
loud.
music as well.
Oh,
I make
It's
music.
so loud.
Yeah. Oh, because you hear more when one ear, right?
No, it's the tinnitus.
he's got to.
Oh, okay.
It's like, have you ever had like a firework go off too close to you
No,
and
no.
your head ring?
I have tinnitus. I know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but like with the volume all the way up on a stereo.
Oh.
Yeah, Jesus, man, that's awful. Fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't imagine it because I make music, and I make a subgenre of techno called dub techno and dub house. It's like it's made with like delays and reverbs, and it's about creating spaces with like psychoacoustics. So taking into account like frequency absorptions by the head, the ears, just so you can create realistic auditory spaces for your instruments to be in. Anyway, it takes 2 years to have that because your brain processes both ears information, right, to create this thing. So if I had to lose a sense, I would probably not choose hearing. So I'm very sorry to hear about that, man.
Oh, Gaddy, I was actually going to talk about the music. So you said recently that like what's it called? You were doing a bunch of you were grooveying, right? Making a bunch of music
Yes.
and got it like managed to actually get published, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah. So this genre I'm in has been like one of the first genres to have net labels. Like net labels started as a thing back in the 90s, I think. It's a very interesting story, but it's a bit like drawn out and not particularly interesting. But the cool thing is that I self-released for a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and not this genre, something else. But I decided to go in this way, in this direction, and a label reached out to me. It's a small label. It's called Drift Deeper,
Yeah.
and they reached out to me asking me if I wanted to release an EP with them. So I was like, "Fuck yes!" Like they reached out to me, so that was like amazing because when you're like, "I'm just doing this for fun," and here comes someone that's like, "Hey, your stuff is so good. Let's put it for sale." And like I met the guy, and it's like a really cool like DJ. So
Actually, now that you mention it, I want to buy it. Buy your EP. Where is it? Link it in the new podcast stuff channel that I just created.
sure. So
And
it's not going to be released until the 2nd of November.
okay, okay,
So if this podcast goes up later than that, we should have a link to
okay,
it.
cool.
If not, yeah. So it's gonna come up on the Bandcamp page of this label, Drift Deeper.
Drift Deeper is the name of the EP.
No,
Label,
the
the label.
label.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Go ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, it's a niche genre where like audio engineers fall in because you have all this notion about spaces and psychoacoustics. It's very nerdy, but the cool thing is that there's a lot of people that have been doing it for decades
Mm.
because this thing started in Jamaica. People started having these dub plates, which are vinyls, but they're like loops,
Mm.
vinyl
Yeah.
loops. So you could play them and like add effects to them and make new things with old tracks. So it's like a really cool thing that started like more than 50 years ago at this point, I think. So it's just a very interesting thing that's happening again in the digital world.
Yeah.
So like an echo of a past scene.
Okay.
So it's
So
fascinating.
very interesting stuff, but I want to actually give it a listen. So do you have like a link to a SoundCloud or YouTube or something along those lines? I could actually play it in this channel, and we can set the
Sure.
volume a little bit low on that. Okay, give us a little bit of
Uh,
ambiance, as they say, right?
okay. Well, I'm gonna put a link to a video in general. Is that okay?
Could you put it in PC stuff?
Sure.
Okay. Then I'll go ahead and put it in bot spamming, so we can hit that up. Is that your? Is that you, or is that who?
That's
That's
me.
you. Sunless or phasing angle?
Yeah. No, Songless is my artist name.
Okay, Sunless is your artist name. Okay, so let's go to the
Yeah.
bots.
Well, I have several, but this is for this genre and this song specifically.
Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a play.
So it's pretty trippy. So please enjoy.
Okay, we'll continue to talk about it because like I think like
Sure.
we can kind of give it a listen in the
Yeah, it's
background.
background music.
Yeah, it's actually like perfect background music from what I can tell. Yeah, Chris, I know you're very big in.
I mean, yeah.
I know you're pretty big into the. Ooh, that's a little bit loud. Let me turn that down. Right about there. Okay, so Chris, I know you're into the audio stuff. Like, anything pique your interest from this conversation so far?
I mean, I'm certainly interested to hear like exactly what kind of music you're talking about. As far as like sampling old songs, like is there specific like stuff that you guys use, like a specific
Okay,
genre?
no. So what we're using from old songs is the techniques. Uh,
Oh, okay.
there are no samples here. The only samples really are the drums. But it's like 909 samples, like 909 drum machine
808 or
samples.
909s? Is there
No, 909.
909? Okay.
So 808 you would use for like older things.
Yeah.
So, this is techno slash house. So you should definitely use something like a 909 better.
Hmm.
There's a song by Daft Punk called Revolution
Yeah,
909,
yeah, yeah.
and it's referencing that. Like, that drum machine had, like, one of the biggest
I mean,
impacts in the
yeah,
music
yeah. I was just
ever.
wondering because, like, I'm not very familiar with the devices. I know 808s exist because Kanye West dropped that album 808s and Heartbreak, if you remember that. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, 808 is more about rap, trap, that kind of
yeah,
thing.
that's what I was
So,
asking.
Nice
yeah,
nectar.
yeah. So this is basically just house,
Yeah.
but with trippy chords and stabs and delays and stuff.
Okay. Chris, can you hear it by the way?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Okay. That's good. It reminds me of like tracks from a couple of games I used to play. Like,
I'm getting really like kind of like Gran Turismo or Forza. I don't remember which game, but it feels like I'm in the menu screen of one of those games, and I'm just like selecting my car and choosing the paint job.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like
Yeah.
right now.
yeah, that's
I like it.
That's a good vibe. That's a good vibe. So there's a very underground scene with this in Germany, and I know a few audio engineers from there that have been making this kind of music for like 30 years,
Hmm.
and there's so much depth. But anyway, this kind of music you would listen to while you're like high or something. Like, that's more the kind of vibe. Because no, seriously, the actual delays, the actual psychoacoustics change a lot when you're in a different state. Like, there's something about the time perception, that changes when you're in a different state. And this kind of music has that going on. Because you have all this like temporal fuckery going on with the delays.
Yeah, I believe that. I can
Yeah.
100%.
Not this particular track, but in this style, there's a lot of them
Yeah.
like this.
If you want to queue up more of your tracks, feel free to. The bot spamming channel, all you have to do is just like type !play and whatever the link is to your thing, and then it'll play that.
Okay.
So that's pretty dope. I like this. I like this a lot. Okay.
Put one more.
It's actually great like background podcast music. Yeah. Um. So let's go into the topic actually of. Damn, I'm just grooving to this. Like the. God, I'm at a loss of words. Can anybody help me out? Like choose something to talk about. I was going to talk about like Tarkov or something, but
yeah,
Turkey's
sure.
good
Let's start about.
times.
so three of us in here actually play Escape from Tarkov. Gady, I'm not sure like how familiar you are with like the music of that, but like or not music of that. Sorry, the gameplay of that, but like Escape from Tarkov, FPS shooter, and it's been taking up a lot of my time as of late. Like it's I think it's like one of the best games like I've played in a very long time, right? But I want to talk about it with like Chris and Pebs here. So Chris, you're very new to it, and you actually chose to like start playing like probably at the worst time a new player could start playing, right? End of the wipe cycle, like everybody's already max level, and you're getting shit on every raid you go into, right?
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I like the last raid we played. It went pretty well. Like I got a kill. I successfully killed two people, got some decent loot, and escaped like faster in that game than I expected to be able to. And I'm not even someone I would say is good at FPSs.
Yeah.
So, so I mean the difficulty curve surprised me at how not bad it is.
It is one of those games. Like there's like a lot of things you can learn. Like it's always a learning experience with that game. In like there's always like new things you can be doing to like optimize your gameplay or mixing things up, right? But like it's also one of those games where like guns really are the great equalizer, right? You can pop a guy in the face and he has no face shield but has all the good shit in the game. Like you take all the shit after just popping him in the face with a pistol, right? I like that about that game. It's very random. Like it's a very it's got great emergent gameplay. If you're familiar with emergent gameplay as a term. Gady.
I certainly
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, of course I am.
Go ahead, Chris.
There's certainly things about it that I really don't like, which is like the ammo differences and
Yeah, and I think that stems from them trying to be like super realistic with the game, right? So they're trying to emulate like how it works, or not super realistic, but they're trying to emulate certain aspects of like real life. Like ammo does matter in real life because like if I'm using buckshot against armor, like an actual ceramic plate armor versus what is it? Like actual military designated like armor piercing ammo. Like there's going to be a difference, right? But I do think that they can like tweak that around a little bit. Supposedly it's going to be fixed when they introduce like armor plate coverage, right? So right now it only covers like a blanket area, but they plan on having like armor hitboxes on the person depending on the plate that you're wearing. And so like the armor hitbox will cover a certain area, and if you get shot outside of that area, your armor does nothing, right? But I don't know. Yeah, you are right. The ammo is kind of like frustrating though. Like how hard has it been for you to like grasp the importance of, or not the importance, but like the kind of like differentiation between ammo types so far? Interested to hear that.
oh, I haven't.
You haven't? Yeah, that's. I feel like they need a tutorial with that game.
They just need to provide more information inside the actual game and not on the wiki.
Yeah, like a tutorial.
In my opinion.
Or like little info things, like you can go through a tutorial or an infographics, but
Yeah, like show me some like bar graphs of velocity and stuff when I hover over it, like stat wise, and I don't know, just like highlight it in green if I can connect it to like a weapons clip or not, so that I can just decide for myself what I want to use.
yeah.
Without having to read too much into it.
Okay,
but,
yeah. Make it a little more user friendly in terms of like identifying what you can and can't do with that ammo, right?
Yeah.
Because like I will say it's kind of there's a lot of items and they don't make it clear exactly what you do with all of them, right? And what they go to. I wanted to say though there's going to be a couple of changes that I'm really looking forward to, like that armor one I mentioned earlier. I wish they.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I really wish they would add the Battle Buddy, like you know the Battle Buddy app, Pebs, by Veritas.
What?
Okay, never mind. So there's an app for your phone you can get, and it like has like a simulation of like it'll tell you like what your percent chances are to penetrate armor with certain bullets, right? And so I wish they just had like something in the game that had that functionality, right? So you can just like pull up like this bullet, this armor, what's my chance to penetrate it, right? Stuff like that. I don't know if graphs would be the best thing, Reaper, because I feel like that's kind of like not intuitive. But if they just like had numbers or like check marks or something.
Well, I mean, I say graphs. I guess I don't really mean graphs, but like what all do you really need to know about the bullet that's important? Like velocity, power, and
penetration. Like, penetration's the biggest thing.
Penetration and
so
like
damage.
you could just hover over it and have like a pop-up window that just has like those three like
you do know you
numbers.
I mean you can't see the damage and penetration, but you can see the velocity. If you right click the bullet and inspect it, it has like the velocity, but I think that's still too much like to do. Like you should, like you say, it should be a hover over kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
because I really don't like having to look up like what the bullet damage is on my phone while I'm in raid.
Like this isn't like a fucking RPG, right? I would appreciate that kind of stuff probably in that
It's
kind of
so
game, but
it's weird because they're trying to go sort of with the RPG angle in the same way Stalker does, right? Where there are skills there,
sure,
but like they're not like going
they're
hard into it, right?
yeah, but so they're taking an RPG angle for this thing that like it is like effectively boring to do. Like, why do I need like all this stuff for like just ammo types? It's like I'm not interested in all of it. Like, it has no lore behind it. It has no like
Well, you do
crafting.
know the bullets are all real bullets, except for like there's a couple that they invented to balance the gameplay, but like almost all of the bullets in the game are real in real life.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
So like the M855A1 is like actually what the U.S. Army uses for armor-piercing ammo, like high velocity 5.56 bullets with a full steel core.
Fair enough. I mean, I I don't know but
They don't
Hunter,
make it clear
you're
though.
taking okay.
They don't
So
make it clear though. You are right. Like they.
you're taking RPG elements, and the point of an RPG is to escape from reality, effectively. But you're trying to put a realistic turn on it by like expressing all the
In
like all
numbers.
these different ammos and like stuff, and it's just like, well, I don't think it works too well. But
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see like how it is after they implement the armor changes. Pebs, thoughts?
I don't even know where to start with that one. Yeah, I don't know. Once you learn the ammo chart, it makes sense that it is the way it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
they did invent like their own ammo for gameplay purposes. I think what they really need to fix in that is the the vendor pricing for a lot of the fucking ammo because it's pretty stupid.
I think the limits are more detrimental than the prices.
Yeah, that too.
But
Those
then
limits really
again,
fucking
like you
kill me.
also have like what we had 2 patches ago, where everybody was rocking like unlimited 995 ammo, and that's kind of like detrimental too. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's like there's like healthy balance, but like nobody knows what that balance is, right? Uh,
I think that they should limit maybe the spiciest of the rounds, but things like
80
fucking
M80. That's kind of
like M855, I should be able to buy as much M855 as I fucking want. That's a standard fucking round.
yeah, and
Like, and you can't. You can buy like what, 200,
I think so. Yeah,
300 rounds, some stupid like that.
Gaddy, I know you're not like a Tarkov player, but what are your thoughts like from this conversation?
Okay, so I don't know the extent of the RPG elements in the game, but I think having too much of a variety of ammo could be detrimental. I don't know. Maybe that's what they kind of targeted, the marketing. They kind of targeted the tactical, realistic kind of a
Yeah,
crowd.
that's
So maybe
that's a lot of it.
yeah, so they're like they bought in, so they can't just take that out. That would make a lot of people upset, I think. And I don't think they could make it simpler, like, right? Like they already did it. They can't just take it away, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really familiar with the game. I've only seen a couple like people play it. I'm not really sure what it kind of is about. If it's like PUBG but with NPCs kind of thing. I'm not sure.
It's very hard to describe. It's more like I had a
it's not a battle royale. There is no like first place victory for surviving type of thing.
Killing other
But you're
people is not necessarily the primary objective of the
yeah.
game.
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
It looks interesting though. That I can say that. Like from what I've seen, it looks cool. It looks interesting.
I had an apt description for the game, but I don't remember what my description was. To think it's all programmed in Unity, though, like, Jesus, they're actually, like, they're managing to do stuff with Unity I wouldn't have expected. Hopefully they'll be able to do more with updates for Unity. Gady, you're a little bit more familiar with that. So I think they're running on a
Sure.
2019 version of Unity, or maybe 2018. Or like, what are the performance
Yeah.
changes from 2018 to 2020? Like, is it significant?
Okay, so if I'm not wrong, okay, they implemented something called ECS, Entity Component System, DOTS. They have the Burst Compiler, which are basically things that utilize multi-threading, that utilize basically things that make it so CPUs with high core counts can make more things at once. So it makes it possible to instantiate or create things, lots of things, with very little resources. So I don't know, you can have a lot of trees, a lot of debris, a lot of bullet casings, a lot of particles. So it's generally like very nice to have, especially when it's the GPU rendering it. So the CPU can do more CPU things.
I'm excited
So
for
yeah,
the changes, because like the
yeah,
game kind of struggles a little bit sometimes right now.
yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Not necessarily all the time, but a good chunk of the time.
I guess it depends on map.
Depends on the map, and it depends like, and it's only going to get worse once they implement Streets of Tarkov and like these other bigger maps. And then not only that, but they're going to start combining and expanding these maps. Like, we're looking at like the gameplay is going to start, or the game itself,
It's gonna take a really weird evolution process,
it's
bro.
going to have
The way it's playing,
it's
especially.
it will. But it's not even that. I think the performance is going to drop unless there are some significant changes between the Unity versions, which, Gady, you mentioned there are, so that's going to be good, right?
Yeah, there are some. Well, those things you opt in. They're not forced on you. They're available. So it's up to the developer to work towards implementing
Oh
changes
God,
with them.
that means we have to rely
Yeah,
on the Russians to do the right thing. Okay.
basically, yes. So, yeah.
Speaking of video games, I want to make a video game, Gady. We need to talk about that sometime.
Yes. So, I've been thinking, I had this very bright idea today. Maybe we could attempt to make something like Dust.
You want to play Dust
The
again,
main
Pebs?
concern is server host.
Sure.
Go ahead, Gady.
So the main concern is server side cost. Like, I'd be willing to put in a few hours a day to make assets and things, but like the main thing is cost, because if you have MMO mechanics, you need servers.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
For markets, but the thing is, you can optimize to have as little data as possible transfer between client and server to minimize like bandwidth,
I
right?
still want to make my game
So
design from earlier, but we'll talk about that later.
yeah. So the problem is I have lots of ideas and
Not enough time.
little motivation
Yeah, little
and
motivation.
not enough
Yeah,
time.
little
Yeah.
motivation, little time, and it's
Yep.
always the ideas that are the easy part. It's never like actual development.
Yeah, of course, they're very easy. Because you can think about something, you can see it,
Man,
you can see the
I think we
possibility.
should just like
But-
start like create a money jar and start chucking in $1 every day, and then pay some Indian guy to like develop it all for us. I think that'd be easy, right, Chris?
Don't ask me. I'm not big brain.
Why do work yourself when you could pay someone in India to do it for you for half the cost and time?
And half the quality.
Hey, those software engineers in India are actually like really good.
Why make anything when you could just play something someone else made and then complain about how bad it is?
Yeah, kind of right about that.
But I don't know, I feel like the problem would be that few like Dust did a lot of fun things, but they jumped on the combined arms bandwagon, which I don't think is as popular anymore.
I would be inclined to disagree. Dust, I think their biggest failure was the fact that they launched a multiplayer game. They launched a multiplayer game in a universe that's for a PC game on a console that was at the end of its life cycle.
Yeah.
So
I mean, sure.
it
Sure.
was their timing and choice of console that killed them.
Yeah. I'm not saying the genre choice killed them. I'm just saying that if they had to do it again now, combined arms would not be a good idea.
I like I
So,
liked the combined arms aspect of it, but
oh, sure, I agree with it. It's a lot of fun, but it's not as popular as it was back in 2012, 2013, whatever.
I'm trying to
You
think
know?
like what games I can think of that are combined arms, but like I mean games is dead. So
Yeah.
um
But
like there's Squad, but
I
that released like several years ago.
yeah, like you only have the dedicated autists playing that kind of game, you know?
Yeah.
And sure, you
You
could
making fun of
say
my
Destiny.
autism?
I want. No, absolutely not.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Give me
I am.
I want my autism.
So the point is, what were the fun parts about Dust? I think it was the fitting
Fitting
that they had that nailed on the
Yeah,
head. I
fitting
think.
is always nice in a game. Like being able to be the creator of like what you are bringing is always like a
Yeah.
fun treat in a game. Whether it's Tarkov where you like,
Yeah.
create your own fitting for that, or if it's like Dust 514, like that's always like interesting, right?
Yeah. So the gameplay comes second, I think. Came second in Dust. The combined arms I could make away with, but the fitting I just can't. I just have to have that in a game if I have to make it. Just that level of, because when you have fitting, you have emergent gameplay.
Yeah.
Because things you don't think of pop up. And you might say, no, I have to nerf them. That's okay. But you still give people the opportunity to play around and experiment with
I
them.
honestly think they didn't have enough fitting options on Dust. I think there was room for more. Like there should have
Absolutely.
they should have had
Yeah.
guns, like the fitting on the guns, the fitting on the like you should be able to mix and match your helmets and armor. Like they didn't go far enough with that fitting. I think that's one of the greatest tragedies that ever happened in that game was they didn't go deep
Yeah.
enough with the fitting because the fitting was where the fun was made.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like, I don't think you should be afraid of walling people away, saying that your learning curve is too high, because
Fuck those people.
that's okay. Fuck that. I mean, if you don't have the time and like effort to put into, because if you do put the time and effort into that kind of thing, it pays off. It pays off the fucking, like, it pays off a lot because you have a lot of fun with the things you thought about.
Yeah.
Then you say, oh god, I just made an OP build. I better not share it because everyone's gonna be using it in a week, right?
Yeah. Like the proto men
Yeah.
on
So
that game,
that kind of thing.
they would like hide away for weeks at a time crafting like the best shit in theory, and then they'd like go and pub stomp with it in like the next week
Yeah.
for like an entire month
Yeah.
while people are scrambling to figure out what the fuck they're doing. Pebs, comments, you had something there earlier. Okay.
About which Dust?
Yeah,
or
Dust. Or something. I don't know. You were going to say something, right?
I think combined arms was a problem
You think so?
consistently throughout the game, but it's either the fucking anti vehicle shit was too strong or it was too weak all the time perpetually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was either like god tier against them or it just wasn't cutting it.
Have you guys played Titanfall? Titanfall 2?
Yeah, I played it like fairly briefly. I got around to playing
Would
a little bit. Yeah.
Would you consider that combined arms?
That's tough to say. Technically, yes, but I think the maps weren't large enough for it to be like considerably combined armsy enough, right?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
The mechs were a gimmick. But they were a lot of fun. The thing is, in Dust, they weren't a gimmick. They were like actual gameplay. They were like a big part of it, and I think
tanks are
they didn't.
necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a way to balance that kind of thing is maybe give one side infrastructure, like turrets, like stationary things, and tanks on to the other team. Like more imbalance. Because what
Here's
I think Dust fell through is like balancing, because you had two teams doing the same thing, right? You didn't have a team on attack and a team on offense like you would have in Rainbow Six,
Yeah,
which I think does that brilliantly. But I don't know,
yeah.
maybe something like that where you have a
I think the
siege
map design was
and
what
people
really
calling them.
killed Dust. I think the or not killed it, but like it made it much more like exacerbated. Like the issues with vehicles were blatantly obvious when you had the first iteration of maps where it was like what was it? It's like a couple of clone depots, wide open spaces all over the place, a couple mountains on the edges, and then
Oh yeah, that was.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know what you're talking
and
about.
like it's just wide open spaces and
Wide
people going from
open
objective to
spaces.
objective. So like vehicles are necessary, right? They aren't optional.
yeah,
You
they're a must.
need them. And when you have those vehicles and they're as powerful as they are, like you have a Madrigar with a rail. I don't know. Is the Madrigar the Caldari one? I can't remember. I think the
Yeah, I
Dude,
don't
I
remember.
think the Madrigar was the Caldari one. Or
it wasn't a Marian.
No, hold on. Madrugar was
yeah,
Galente thing.
Galente. Okay. So what was the Caldari one? The one that everybody would use a railgun on top of, right? Uh,
I don't remember. Balok?
no,
Balok?
no, it was like some Etruscan sword name.
I don't remember.
Anyways, point is there was the Caldari tank, and you'd just get sniped with a railgun from across the map. Gameplay. I think honestly, where if Dust had one not been on the PS3 at the end of its life cycle, but two had instead of like open land encounters like inside of a Titan, for example, like in the inside of a ship, and like there was mechs, but there not all the hallways would have been big enough for the mechs. Just like so,
Yeah.
like the maybe the middle lane of the map is just like a wide open hangar bay, right? And so like the mechs can fit
Yeah.
there, but like on the side hallways and all that, that's only infantry. That would have worked.
Yeah.
Or
So
the
there's a few games that did that successfully. There's Tribes, Tribes Ascent, Tribes 1, 2, and 3. You guys ever played that?
yeah, I played Tribes Ascend.
Yeah.
Nope.
So you had something like a Titan in that game. You had like this place in the middle where you flew up to and you could kill people inside. Or
Dust
there was
Battlefield 2142.
yeah, 2142. Yeah, that one also had Titans and it was a really really good
Yeah.
game.
That one was a very good game. It's a shame that it didn't get as much out of it as like for example Battlefield 3. I think it was just like a little bit too
Yeah.
early. It's a little bit too early to
Yeah.
release that game.
So my hope is that EA releases it again or
I
something
don't want
someday.
EA to do it because like I just don't want I don't want EA to release another game. I just want them to die. Go die in a hole, EA. This is my message to you.
Yeah.
All you executives at EA, you need to go find the nearest hole and die in it. Thank you.
And
Public service
yeah.
announcement over. Yeah. Having like I feel like claustrophobic space environments with the opportunity to just slug it out with mechs in the middle would be a very nice game just all around.
Like
Mechs are
Titanfall in
dead,
space.
man. I mean, they'll be back someday, I think, but
Games are dead.
um,
Games
it's,
are dead.
It's getting there. We're
And
we're getting
have killed them.
to another point. Like I forget if there's a specific term to it where like games died the first time during like the SNES era and
Yeah,
Genesis era and
80s
stuff.
because of like the massive dump of games that the industry took
Yeah.
because like it was cheaper to produce games and like tons of them did turn out profits, but on the like everybody like speculated like it was the Bitcoin bubble, right? Everybody speculated as if it was valuable, but the intrinsic value of games was not high, and so it like like there was the video game bubble collapse in the 1980s, and then after that was the golden age of video games, like the 90s to the early 2000s, or the late 90s and early 2000s, like the golden age of video games to 2004. Damn, that was a year. I hope that happens again. But to quote Friedrich Nietzsche, games are dead, and we have killed them.
Yeah,
So
that's how it should be. Things should die and be forgotten and then
reborn
come
as a
back
phoenix.
again later. Yeah.
maybe mechs will come to life, and not in video
In
games.
real life.
I
Maybe in a
mean,
few years we'll have mechs.
Japan's got that mech they're building.
Yeah,
That's
but
actually
that's
going to be
that's a
shit.
gimmick.
That's a
And
meme
that's
mech.
You say it's a gimmick, but once it attacks China, I'm going to be like, oh, it's happening.
Fucking
I agree. Japan is rolling up against China for sure. I mean, and
Yeah.
rightfully so. Fuck China.
Yeah, fuck China. Sorry, Sand, if you expected this podcast to go to China.
Don't worry, I
Fuck
didn't
China.
expect it, and I want their fucking sympathy bucks. Fuck China. Taiwan number one,
Fuck
right?
China.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet Jesus.
Pebs, come on,
No more
join in.
Disney bucks for us.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't judge too much. I am a Marian.
yeah. Speaking of Eve, man, that's oof. That is a game.
Tough time.
Tough grind.
Jesus.
It's
Christ.
literally me just waiting around while Caldari Cruisers 5 trains up so I can fly Tengus. Kill me.
See, there's all your time to like do the things you think about creating. You just spend it all in Eve.
I don't spend any time on Eve. What do you mean? That's the thing. Like, it's a passive skill queue. So I'm just sitting here waiting for my skills to level up so I can actually play the game. But
I mean, you can play the game right now.
I'm not skilled into
That's
anything.
what friendship is for.
I'm not skilled into anything worth giving a damn over in Eve.
Did you like start over or something?
No, I just create a bunch of alt accounts to just like use the free skill points I get from referring myself. And then the free skill points that I get for referring myself go into like these certain skill paths to create characters that can do specialized stuff, right? But like it just takes like to get proficient in something, it just takes forever in Eve. Not like me doing anything. It just like it's a passive skill queue, and those skill queues can be as long as like 365 days out, right? And I got like 180 days left until my skill queue's over. So fuck me. Anyways, enough about Eve. I think that's a boring game for boring people. Sorry, Pebs, you're boring.
Yep, I'm basic.
It's a game for smart people that have nothing to do with their intelligence and just wasted in a fucking game.
Okay, I see. Shots fired.
I'm kidding. I'm not gonna tell you how to spend your time. You do you, man.
Hey, I don't spend my time on Eve. Like, I spend it more on Tarkov than on Eve. Like,
I like shooting people in Eve because it makes them very upset.
it's like that.
That's
it's
true.
like that General Sam video. Okay, like, why play a game and have fun when you could play a game, have fun, and piss someone off?
Yeah,
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
But that's why I play Tarkov, because like, why fucking?
Yeah, but you're usually the one who gets pissed off.
So as much as I like to drum that up and like, you know, get super hyperactive, I personally do not take any offense to me losing any stuff when it's like by myself. It's when other people are fucking up that I have to like criticize them for fucking up, right? Like, yeah, but I don't get angry. Like, I get frustrated, but not like rage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not wrathful. Like, I'm not one of those people who would like die and then rage quit the game, right? I don't feel that. I feel like an exuberance of like that sudden rush of adrenaline hits my blood, and like I have to like let it all out at once so I can go into the next raid calm, cool, and collected, right? So that's I think that's the best way to define it, is like I get really energetic and into it, but I don't get angry at it, because if I got angry I would just quit the game, right? But I never do that.
Yeah. You should play Rust.
Rust is a poor man's Tarkov.
Oh. Well, wait, do you build
I'd rather
bases
play
in
Scum.
Tarkov?
No, you don't. That's the big
I'd rather
difference.
play Scum.
You'd rather play Scum. I'd rather shoot myself in the
Yeah.
foot.
I don't know. I used to play a lot of Rust back in the day, but it made me rage a lot because you'd play like for 8 hours, and then you'd lose all your fucking shit in 2 minutes. And like, fuck that. Just fuck that. What are you even doing that for? You know?
Yeah.
That's
You're
because you're
not
bad
having
at
fun.
it.
Thank you. I take it as a compliment. But yeah, I'm glad I stopped. I mean, just do something better with your time when you're like getting that upset over a game. You
I want
know?
to make my game, you know, the one where the
Yeah.
shipbuilding and stuff. Build your own ships, and it has like an actual physics calculation thing. But I need to.
But I'm I'm not sure about the text thing, man. Just
I'm telling you that
Just
the
why?
text is the way to go. Like, you ever played Dwarf Fortress before?
sure.
No, have you played Dwarf Fortress before? It's
Yeah,
oh yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
I want it to be like that kind of experience, the adventure mode of it, right?
It's a lot of commitment then, because Dwarf Fortress was created in like years and years.
It's not done yet. 15 years,
Yeah.
20 years actually, I think. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, I know,
Like, are
I
you
know.
willing to commit?
But like, he's treating it like a side project, and I don't want to like go into the depth that he went. I just want to have like basic, like, physics calculations, which I guess I could get from a textbook or something, right? And then
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I
I
just
don't
don't
know.
know where to begin. That's my issue. It's always like, where do you begin? I guess the movement of the player would probably be the best thing. I kind of want it to be like a mix of like Dwarf Fortress Adventure Mode, Space Station 13, and Eve, right? Just kind of like a healthy mix of all three of those.
Why? Why Space Station 13?
Because I want to be able to lube up my hallways and make someone slip and fall out the airlock and into another ship.
Okay. Okay, I get it now.
That's.
No, I thought you meant like the roleplay aspect of it.
I mean, if people want to roleplay in my game, I'm not going to stop them.
Yeah, I'd be proud of that.
Like,
People are. Yeah.
that would be cool, because like, if I think I mentioned it to you, I want people to like crew their own ships. Like, I want the ships to have like, you know, certain things that need to be done on them, and they need to crew them the way that like you would crew them realistically in life, right? Like, there's got to be a navigator, there's got to be an engineer, and there's got to be a gun guy, right? And so like,
But what if you want to play the game solo?
well, then you
Like,
would you
can
would
you
you
have
would
NPCs
design a
on it?
ship that is able to like, it would be small, so it wouldn't require as much of the stuff. Like, the thing is, like, you need more crew members when your ships are bigger. But like, if you're only flying a ship that's like a fighter sized ship, then like you don't need like weapons and navigation to be separate from each other, because like the controls for like the cyclic for the ship is the same as the cyclic for the weapons, right? So like, that's not differentiated. Like, and then engineering would be literally you stepping away from the cockpit, going to the back of your ship and putting out whatever fires. It's like 3 steps away from you, then you go back to the cockpit, right? That's the kind of like, if you want to play solo, you fly small ships. If you want to play with your friends, you fly big ships, right? And I don't want to like my idea for it is like the idea for my game in my mind is like, I don't want to limit people to the size of the ship they can fly. So if you want to fly a Titan with like 4 people, like, as long as you build it yourself, you can fly a Titan with 4 people. Just expect it to be really hard to like manage all the shit that goes along with that, right? Because like, if you're flying a 14-kilometer long ship, good luck. Good luck getting from point A to point B. Maybe a fucking fire starts in the reactors and you're in the cockpit. Like, good luck.
Teleporters, man.
Teleporters. That would actually be.
Or maybe like vacuum tubes, you know, where you like put yourself in a capsule and you're shot at, like what do you call it? Like the Elon Musk thing.
The hyperloop or whatever.
Hyperloop, yeah. You could have hyperloops in your spaceship or something.
I mean, that would be pretty cool, and like, I think that might be a really nice mechanic to do. Like, you just.
But what would you fill 14 kilometers of ship with?
A bunch of armor, a bunch of guns, hangar bays with more ships inside of it, stuff like that.
I mean, it's 14 fucking kilometers, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of kilometers.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
I don't know.
like, you. I don't know what, like, the ship designing part is not like what I would be doing. I'm just like giving you the tools, right? Like, if you want to design your ship to be 14 kilometers long, by all means, design your ship to be 14 kilometers long. I don't know what they're going to put inside of it. Like, for all I know, it could literally just be a giant railgun going all the way down the bow, like the keel of the ship, right? So it's just like this giant ass railgun that accelerates a thing to the speed of light to shoot at somebody, right? Like, they could do that. I don't want to limit them to that, to anything. But, like, if they design a railgun, like, they designed a railgun.
Yeah.
And if it's 14 kilometers long, that's going to be a powerful railgun, would it not?
I guess so, yeah.
Because particle accelerators, like, the percentage of the speed of light that they can hit is based off of the length of the tube, right? So the longer the tube, the faster something can accelerate. Yeah. And so if you have a railgun that's 14 kilometers long, you're hitting like actual percentages of the speed of light, which means that whatever you're shooting out of the end of the gun is going to be traveling so fast it could punch through could punch through planets and hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. Even if it's like the size of a rock.
But the cool thing is that particle accelerators, by achieving relativistic speeds, could have a bonus penetrating effect because of that reason. Because you have compression going on from the relativistic effects.
Mm-hmm.
You know how things compress the faster you move?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you would have less space to penetrate through, which is actually kind of crazy. Because I've never thought about this before.
I don't know if I want to go in depth with the physics like that, though. I'm not a physicist by trade, but it would be cool to have like a game where that is a possibility. Chris, would you play that game?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
You ever get into Death Fortress?
I like actually shooting people.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, that's kind of like what I want to do. Yeah, I know, Pebs. Like you can't do like little text games. Brain not big enough.
Brain been punished.
Man. God, as much as I'd love to like develop my ideal video game, I need to like have a development team or something. I don't know.
You need an office. You need a space. That's what you need.
Yeah.
You need to give it time. You can't just do it like a couple hours a day. Not everyone can. I mean, you could.
I mean, that's what Zach and Tarn Adams did for like 10 years. They just like...
Those are the guys from Dwarf Fortress, right?
They just sat...
But they were brothers, and they were like in their own house together all the time. Like, they were very dedicated.
I don't know if they live together. I think they have separate houses, but they weren't dedicated to the game at first. Like, they just considered it a side project to their other games, right?
Yeah, but they still did it. Well, first off, I mean, they were brothers. I think that's the main thing as well. Like, they knew each other very well. They're still alive. But yeah, like, what I think you should do is, like, if you want to get serious, get an office. Hire people. But you need a budget. You need capital for that.
Yeah. Capital would be fun. If I had it, it would be fun to blow it on a video game. Totally. That's definitely what I'd use money for, is to, like, just blow it on, like, a pipe dream of a video game. It's okay. I could do that.
I mean, you should have some for that kind of thing. Because you never know when things could go off and, like, you know. But the thing you're trying to do, I don't think it would blow up. It's still a small niche.
It would be super niche. It would basically be like a game that Mandalore Gaming reviews on his channel. Like that.
Sure.
It would be one of those type of games, not like a big game that everybody plays. Hey people, Seth here. Today we're going to review my game.
Autism.
I just had a sorry to just break the topic, but I just had a visitor in my town in Minecraft beat one of my guards to death with a bone, so I hired him to be a guard.
That's fucking like meritocracy at work there. It's like, yo, you killed my guard with a fucking bone? You're hired.
Just caveman his ass. Good job.
maybe that's how the first guard was hired. You know, maybe the others were forced into guarding. I don't know.
I see Grug killed Grug with bone. I hire Grug.
Hmm. Grug, you no kill me.
I give Barry
You
Grug.
protect me. Oh.
I give Barry Grug, Grug club other Grug. Man. God. What a conversation. So, we are about an hour and 20 minutes into it so far, so how long do we want to continue this? Do we want to go for the full 2 hours, or you think we are at a stopping point right now?
Let's tackle one last point, and then I'm heading off to bed.
Okay. So, I'm open to recommendations now that we've kind of like gone through like the topics that I wanted to talk about and Unabomber and the we didn't talk about Ted Kaczynski and Joe Rogan maybe getting like a getting together to do the Joe Rogan podcast, but I don't think that's particularly like going to happen, right?
Maybe we could do it. Let's have Ted Kaczynski over next week.
Yeah, please do. Let's if you could organize that,
That's right.
that'll be very good.
Well, give me like a couple years and I can write him letters. Maybe we could have a conversation with them month after month. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm serious though. He actually
Into-
replies to your mail. If you write postcards or letters to him, he will reply.
Oh, that's interesting.
Today we have a package from Ted Kaczynski. I wonder what it is.
It's got a little string hanging out of it, and there's a couple greasy spots on the corners. But let's open it up and see what it is. That would, I think that would be an interesting thing to do, like write a letter to Ted Kaczynski. The problem is, I feel like that would get you put onto a watch list immediately, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, I probably am already, so, you know.
You should do it since you're in a foreign nation, and well, actually, never mind, because if you're in a foreign nation, the U.S. government's legally allowed to spy on you, so it's like,
Yep.
So maybe it's better if a U.S. citizen does it, right? Chris, you want to be up at bat for this?
Nope.
Okay, I'll see what I can do for sending a mail to Ted Kaczynski and get a
Maybe
response.
you could pay someone to do it.
Maybe the eight.
You could do the most American thing and pay someone to do it for you.
If the problem with that is like I have too much at stake now. Like if I send a letter and the ATF is going to come to my house and shoot my dog. Now that I have a dog, like they're going to actually they have leverage over me. So like I don't know if I want to do that, right? Chris, you don't have a dog. You're fine. Send him a letter.
Fuck you. My life's worth enough as it is to me.
Don't worry, they're only going to shoot all your loved ones, not you. They're going to fuck up all their shots, shoot your dog, shoot your wife, shoot your child, but you don't have any of those things, so you're fine.
This is the 21st century, Sand. I can't be shot if I'm not black. Sorry.
They shot my teddy bear. No.
This isn't the 80s where just everybody got shot equally. Actually, that's not true either.
Yeah,
but-
the 80s is like especially when black people were getting shot. I mean, like fucking the Rodney King riots, man. You don't remember that? Well, I guess that's before any of our times. I don't think anybody's old enough to have like witnessed the Rodney King, like the LA King riots, because that was.
I've talked to people that lived through them in person, and it's awful.
Yeah.
I met this guy in Bolivia. He was from Cali,
Mhm.
and he lived there in the 90s. So he like did train hopping, you know, where you
Like a hope,
catch a
like
ride.
old school hobos would do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was doing that in the 90s. So he said that it was worse for him to sleep in Los Angeles than it would be to sleep in a fucking freight train with some heroin junkie in front of him ready to stab him at any second. Because in Los Angeles you could never sleep. You have to like watch out for like stray bullets, especially in the neighborhood where he lived. Like that kind of shit, you know? People could just bust in your house because the cops weren't going in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and that's why I think
So,
we should just declare California illegal.
Yeah. let's ban California. It looks too much like a high capacity
Magazine.
Yeah. I mean, it's shaped like an AK magazine. You ever notice that?
Yeah. The problem with
Yeah.
banning California is everybody would move to Starbucks and to Alaska, so Chris would be in danger.
I was about to say we might as well save ourselves some extra effort and just get rid of Oregon and Washington as well.
Yeah. We should.
People won't move up here because it's still too expensive, though, so it's okay.
We should do what they did in that one movie, Escape from LA and Escape from New York, where we just turn it into a maximum security prison. We just wall it off and let them do their own thing, right?
Yeah.
Ever watch that movie, Snake Plissken? It's Kurt Russell, right? Chris,
What?
Chris, it was Kurt Russell in Escape from LA and Escape from New York, right?
Yeah.
Because you gotta watch those movies sometime. You ever watch The Thing, Gady?
The what?
The
Sorry?
Thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same actor from The Thing, the main guy who survives at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the same actor who played in Escape from LA and Escape from New York as Snake Plissken. You should watch those two movies too, and we should get together and watch The Thing sometime this Halloween. I feel like that's a great Halloween movie.
Sure. Okay. That sounds like a great plan.
Okay, so we're about to hit the 1 hour 30-minute mark, and I think we'll finish this off in a couple more minutes. So anybody got any comments in regards to life, liberty, and the meaning of happiness? The pursuit of happiness, whatever John Locke said. Oh, sorry, the pursuit of property.
So I have one thing I want to say. So, okay, I think people should take more drugs. That's my point for tonight. Just take more drugs. Just say fuck it.
Okay.
And just take them because you have a right to do so. It's your body, it's your chemistry. Don't let a fucking government tell you what to put in your body and what not to.
Okay.
Just fuck that shit.
I disagree with that, but okie dokie.
You do that? I mean, like, I
mean,
can't.
you can LARP as a libertarian as much as you want, but if you don't support their right to take drugs, my friend, you are not sure of what you're believing in.
I've never claimed to be a libertarian, but
I
sure.
personally,
I'm not talking to you directly. Like, you know, just whoever labels themselves a libertarian, read up on Thomas Shash and like the nature of mental illness and the right to take drugs. That's all I can say.
I don't care. Like, I can't personally do them, so that's not allowed for me.
That's another topic.
That's another topic for another time. I can't do them, so you do whatever you want, man. Like, I don't care. I personally think you should do whatever you want, but like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And if you do, just
but
go ahead.
You shouldn't limit people to do them. You shouldn't tell people not to do things. That's my point. That's it. That's my whole point.
That's your last point. And then, Chris, any topics that you like want to cover in the last 2
No.
weeks? No. Okay. Pebs. Okay, cool. So that is the conclusion of our podcast. I have to write out these last 2 minutes to get the 1 hour 30-minute mark, the illustrious time period of 90 minutes. But thanks everybody for watching. We'll be doing this, I don't know, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. How do we want to do it? Gady, you get to choose.
Yeah.
Just yes?
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly?
Let's do bi-weekly.
Okay. So we'll be back in about 2 weeks to do this again. Glad whoever watched this, and we'll check you out next time. I think that'll be Halloween. You okay with All Hallows Eve, Halloween, to do this? 31st of October?
Yes,
okay, perfect. It's going to be spooky time then.
Yes, sir.
Spooky. Okay, so.
I don't want to get spooked.
Spoopers.
Big spooks. Actually, speaking of Halloween, I gotta get some Halloween candy, but that's neither here nor there.
Cat in the lap.
Cat in the lab. Okay. Well, I guess it's 1 hour 29 minutes, but that's okay. See you around.